Most agency owners think they have a growth problem, but it's highly likely that they really have an identity problem. You are not your agency, and you have to separate the two. The same identity that helped you build the agency to this point is not the same one that's going to build it to the next point. Listen to me as I talk to you about the 5 agency owner archetypes: the firefighter, the creative wizard, the people pleaser, the control builder, and the vision chaser. Which one are you, and how is it capping the growth of your agency? First, I want to talk to you about the difference between an identity and a personality, and the behaviors that manifest themselves based on both of those. Because we've all taken the Myers-Briggs or DISC assessment. Now, an identity is different from your personality. We've all taken the Myers-Briggs test or DISC test and wondered, what is our personality? Well, those things are behavioral snapshots, and I'm talking about like DISC profiles. They're snapshots, and they help you evaluate kind of observable, actionable habits that present themselves in the moment. Whereas your archetype is really what's underneath the surface, more complex psychological framework. And when you talk about your archetype in relation to your identity, it's almost like how you see yourself. And think back to this, right? When you were a little child and your parents talked to you, you started to develop your identity. Were you a good boy, a good girl? Were you a bad boy, a bad girl? Those are real simple things. But over time, and you go in your teen years and you start having friends and interaction and relationship, and you get feedback on who you are and what you are. And you start thinking about, well, what do I want to become? And all these things. So your identity is shaped over years and years. And when you start owning a business, specifically an agency, when you own an agency, you first start out as your identity is, I'm going to get in and do it all and grind. And then what happens is your agency grows, people rely on you, your identity shifts, or it needs to shift. And this is the reason why we built the 5 archetypes, because we know that as you scale your business, and this is backed by other amazing people in this industry. Jason Swank just wrote a book called, or launched a book called Operator to Owner. And it talks about the 5 identity shifts that you have to make. Well, prior to that, we had the 5 agency owner archetypes. And one of the things I really like about what Jason has done is he's put it into the steps that you have to make at each of those levels. And a lot of us see ourselves as, a grinder, or a relationship person, or a salesperson, or an artist, so you kind of see yourself in the owner seat as something that's a little bit, different at each stage. When you start adding team members, you have to manage those people, so you see yourself and present yourself in a different light. And what I'm going to go through today is those 5 archetypes and how they are impeding what you're trying to do with your team at your agency level, but they're also your genius. Your identity is your genius. And at each stage, that genius needs to change. And if you don't change those, you don't get to walk the ladder to the place where you want to go. And so why talk about these archetypes and the identity? It's because what I see, and this is what I experienced with me, is you kind of your identity becomes the agency, or you are the agency. And until you separate those two, you cannot look at your agency like an asset, like an investment. Your agency, you're investing time, money, sacrifice away from family and hobbies and things like that. So you are investing in it, but until you separate yourself from that investment, you can't really get into scaling that agency. So let's get into the 5 agency owner archetypes, and this will all make sense. The first one is the firefighter founder, the creative wizard, people pleaser, control builder, and vision chaser. Now, each identity has its own genius to it. There's also a trap. So when I was running an agency, I'm the firefighter founder. So my identity trap is, if I'm not needed, I'm not valuable. So think how these identities impact the behavior you have when you're running an agency or helping lead an agency. So as a firefighter founder, if I'm not needed, I'm not valuable. If that's my identity, that's how I see myself, the business becomes dependent or became dependent on my energy and my intensity. As a firefighter founder, I run into the fire while everybody's running out. So I'm cool, calm under pressure. And so these identities also have these gifts. I take decisive action under pressure as a firefighter founder. But what happens is I become the escalation path because everybody looks at me like, oh, you're the hero. Yep, let's do it the way he's going to do it. But boy, great under pressure when things aren't going as well. This is a person you can lean on. There's so many good things that this identity, this archetype, the firefighter founder is built for. And you can rely on them as you go, but you can see that if you're always thinking of yourself in that, when you get to a point where you now have to manage a team, that's going to be difficult because you can't do all the work. And as a firefighter founder, you're really good at doing a lot of things and getting things done and being the hero. But you can't let that hero or heroics get in the way of building your system. So you have to leverage your genius. One of the transition points for this identity is stop being the hero and start being the architect. Start teaching people. That's the evolution of this identity. Start teaching people. Start helping others do it. They're never going to do it as well as you do, but your calmness, your ability to be the hero will help you do that. Okay, firefighter founder. By the way, in all of these, there's kind of a primary and secondary. So my primary is firefighter founder. We'll get into some other things, but the whole point of this is to first look within when you're thinking about what you want for your agency. And if you feel like your agency is you and you are your agency, start looking internally at your archetype to help you understand how to unlock this stuff. This is way better than tactics and campaigns and what systems to build. This is like the foundational piece. This is the mental game. You got to get good at the mental game. So let's go to the next one, creative wizard. This is the person that is like the most original and has this creative vision that, like, if you want an idea, this is the person to go to. They're more than that, but if you need something reinvented or if you need something invented, this is the person to help lead that charge. The next one is creative wizard. Now, this person's genius is their ability to be original and have a creative vision for something. But they get trapped in the identity of, if I'm not creating, I'm trapped. And what happens is the reinvention of things over and over and over again replaces or holds back the compounding growth that happens when you don't reinvent. And to them, structure seems like a cage rather than a catalyst. So you can imagine this identity, this archetype runs into challenges when their agency has to take on more structure. And they're not the ones leading that structure because their instinct is to come in and reinvent things. But man, their gift is originality and vision and creative vision, but if they get into a place where the creative wizard is constantly reinventing and new initiatives, it kind of stops momentum, and those new initiatives buckle the scale that needs to happen, the growth that needs to happen. But boy, if you want somebody that you need an idea for, this is the person to go to. All right, so let's get into the people pleaser. These are the people that are all about love. They really are empathetic. They see people's hearts. They wish they could employ the world. They want the best for everybody. But the thing is, their identity, their archetype makes them think, if people are disappointed in me, I failed. And kindness without standards is not love, it's fear. So when you want to scale and you need to understand that as your business scales, as your agency grows, there are going to be some people that come along for the ride and some people that aren't going to. When you get clear on your core values, some people fit into those core values and some people don't. And so in this person's case, their weakness becomes their boundaries with other people. But boy, when this person is strong on their boundaries with other people, they are so powerful because they're so empathetic. But they can't hire everybody. They can't keep everybody. And that hurts this person's heart. And this is when you start thinking about core values and culture and how that is separate from this person's identity. You have to have the two separate. Tony wants to keep everybody, but Tony's agency can't afford to keep everybody who cannot perform at this next level. Those are things you got to start thinking about as the people pleaser. The next one is the control builder. Their genius is repeatability. They are just amazing about quality and the discipline behind making systems that are reliable. And I'm not talking about software. I'm talking about systems where you have people, process, and technology working together to produce an output. That system, when these people build those systems, they are quality. The identity trap they run into, though, is if I don't control it, it will fail. You're not really protecting quality when that happens. You're preventing leadership. So think about the identity transformation that you have to make or you have to get through with each of these archetypes. The control builder is an amazing person that really is good at creating systems that are repeatable. Repeatability is just like, and quality, such good quality. But the trap they run into is, if I don't control it, it will fail. This person, if they're not they're protecting that quality, and quality should be protected, but they're doing it in such a way that they're preventing leadership from happening. They're preventing other people from producing quality, which is what you need out of your leaders as you evolve in your agency, in each role that you are playing. So your identity can still be, we need quality, but you have to be the one to teach it, not control it. And that's a fine line, because, man, who doesn't like quality work, quality effort, the discipline to create the systems for reliability? That's what this person is great at. But you could get in a situation where the control builder could just put the crimps on somebody else leading quality and somebody else doing quality work. It's really a trap. And so you have to think about, boy, we love repeatability. We love quality out of our systems, and we do need someone to make sure that happens, but not in such a way that it can't expand beyond that one person. Okay, the last archetype, the vision chaser. This person is just sees around corners. They think about it all the time. They have an expansive mind. They have an imagination. They build momentum. They get behind things. This is my secondary archetype. My primary is Firefighter founder. And so these identities, as I get into the vision chaser, these identities, remember, it's not that you change as a person or your personality doesn't change. The behaviors that come from your identity needs to evolve in order to see yourself and act accordingly what's needed in these roles as you go from operator to, you're managing everything, to, you're developing the SOPs that everybody else is doing. Now you have build a leadership team, and you're not leading the day-to-day. That's really the CEO seat. And then maybe you want to move into the owner seat, which is really, you don't have to show up if you don't want to. The business just runs itself and you collect a quarterly check. So think about these as you go. So the vision chaser, again, this person has great vision. They have imagination and strategic imagination too. It's not just creative imagination. But their identity trap is, my value is in seeing what's next. Well, what happens often is that vision, they can see what's next, but they don't know the order, the timing, the sequencing. So they'll introduce these ideas that are probably pretty darn close to reality of what's going to happen next. But when they come to the table with ideas, those ideas are out of sync, out of timing, out of whack, and that just becomes chaos. So their gift in terms of seeing around corners, having strategic imagination, has a cost, because they tend to outrun their capacity, their team's capacity, and timing is off. So if you don't give those ideas at the right time so that those ideas can then be implemented or executed on, you get this chaotic thing. And too many priorities that come from a vision chaser as a leader is chaos. But boy, if you need to start talking about what's the plan, where are we going next, what do you think about the future of, this person will probably know the answer. All right. So I hope those archetypes are helping you out. You know, the vision chaser, the control builder, the people pleaser, the creative wizard, and the firefighter founder. Again, these are identities, archetypes that help you understand how you behave, and how you see yourself. Maybe not how you behave, but how you see yourself, and how these archetypes can help you in some places and really be the cause of capping your team's growth and scale and their ability to become their own people and their own identity and go past and beyond who you are as an owner. And there are a lot of agency owners out there that don't let their team get past their identity. And that's what this is all about. So decide who you want to be, who you want your agency to be. And those are two separate things. Do you want to be the person that caps this agency? Do you want, and that's okay. So lifestyle agencies, that's okay. But if you really want to scale and you really want to grow, you've got to let people, expand their worlds. And in order to expand their world, you have to expand yours. And in order to do that, you have to think about what our identity is driving you, and what role you're in, and how that impacts your agency. So hopefully that was helpful.